Oh, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. It's always tough following Nigel. I actually don't know how he got an engineering degree. I prepared for today by wearing my brightest tie. So first of all, is there a slide that goes back? We're asked to give a line of poetry or a favourite saying. Did that actually come up? Ah, yeah, good. It said, "Life is what happens when you're making other plans." And I said that a bit tongue-in-cheek to start with, but I thought about it, so I thought I'd make it the theme of at least the start of the talk. I'll add to it a couple more sayings. As President Roosevelt or Truman, somewhere in there, said something about, you've always got to make decisions with imperfect information. So you make a decision, and if it works out well, that's great. If it works out poorly, you make another decision. And I've always found that really, really empowering. So, well, life may be something that happens while you're planning something else. It might work out well, and if it doesn't, you've always got a second chance. And the last one is, and it's a design comment, about, and it's sort of kind of associated with the presidential saying, is test early and fail fast. And that's something we certainly got from the Ulysses program and from Sam. So I'll give 3 quick examples of how life can be something that happens while you're planning something else. I did mechanical engineering to build large astronomical telescopes. I used to like doing grinding mirrors and stuff when I was a kid, and I thought that was going to be a great career, but that was a bit ambitious because nobody makes telescopes in Australia, so I joined the mine industry, and that wasn't planned. I spent 5 really nice years at Mount Isa Mines. It was for a mining company, it was tremendously innovative, tremendous intellectual horsepower resident at the time. It was quite an exciting place. I invented a few things there, mainly the isosizer, which I'll refer to later. And I left Mount Isa with my ego in excellent condition after 5 very successful years up there. Unfortunately, outside Mount Isa Mines, I was not a nobody, and the business plan, if in fact I even thought in those sort of terms, was to go to other people's concentrators, mineral concentrators, spot their bottlenecks, invent solutions and sell them reports and drawings of how they could fix it. But the mine industry doesn't want plans. They don't want to be a manufacturer. So after starving, virtually, literally, for 2 years, RME became a manufacturer, and we started manufacturing these isosizers I'd invented at Mount Isa Mines under licence to them. The third example of life doesn't end up what you plan is to do with the Ulysses program. By 2011 or something like that, RME had grown to about maybe $45 million business with 150 people. And the mining construction boom hit. And we were taking orders at $20 million a quarter. It was just crazy. And somewhere in there, we were tangled up with, we got approached by the QMI about the Ulysses program, which was the state government's QMI's, the Queensland Manufacturing Institute's, interpretation of the New Zealand Better by Design program. And to be absolutely honest, and I've confessed this to Sam, the whole organisation was so immersed in growing new business systems to basically double our turnover instantly. I was really worried that the core thing that I loved personally, our invention, our ability to observe things, invent machine systems to solve problems. The design side of it was the physical design of machines was so near and dear to my heart. I thought we may risk losing that. So any program that refocuses us on design, as in invent machine design, it's got to be a good thing. Yes, I should be careful what you wish for. So it was an accident. That was the last thing, my last example of, life doesn't work out as you plan. But it was actually very, very good. Ulysses itself didn't quite get traction with us, but we're most fortunate that David Pettigrew introduced us to Sam on the last day, the final report of Ulysses, and RME and Sam just hit it. I was going to say like a match thrown into a room full of petrol vapour, but I remember a lunch, Sam. It was As I said, if it hadn't been for your relations, I would have hit you. He's Sicilian, you see. He's got... Anyway, we've embraced this pretty well, and it's had a marked change on what we do. We've called it customer-inspired design. We've given our own name to it internally, and it's ambiguous, and it's ambiguous quite intentionally. Sometimes the customer sees his own problem and wants us to make a machine solution to fix it, which we will. Sometimes we see a problem the customer doesn't see, and we offer and design a machine solution and fix it even though he didn't realise he needed it fixing. But what we're really aiming for in the long run is to have such nice relationships with our customers that together we find and solve issues that neither of us would have seen independently. So the customer-inspired design is purposely ambiguous. In a few minutes I'm going to show you a film. It lasts for 5 minutes, which is a bit of it when you only got 20 minutes, but it's hard to explain what customer-inspired design has done for us if you don't understand the context of what we're doing. But before I say that, we've always had a good central why. When I worked for the mine industry, I was always fascinated by the ability for all this, mines and concentrators and smelters and that sort of stuff, to produce a pound of copper for $3. The availability of cheap metal to society underpins civilization. So you can slag the mine industry, we're used to it, but at the end of the day, the availability of cheap metal underpins civilization, whether you get a Porsche instead of a Prado or whether you're getting a pot instead of a stick with your meat hanging off the end. Metal makes a big difference, and cheap metal makes a big difference to everybody. So it's a good industry. Metals don't exist as metals very often. A bit of gold does, a bit of copper does, it's native copper, but by and large it's as a compound. You've got to dynamite the host rock, the ore, crush it all down to really fine particles, finer than the grain size. And that's done in really big grinding mills. They're like great tumbrel dryers, but instead of being, that's the sort of diameter, they might be 12 metres diameter and a 20 megawatt motor driving it all around. And they're lined with these sacrificial steel liners because the inside of the mill's full of rocks and steel balls to grind everything up because you're trying to get it down to 100 microns or less sometimes. Those liners wear away and they've got to be changed. There's two really key things about the liners which I observed while I was at Mount Isa Mines, and this is what Sam would call deep customer insight. The life of the liners dictated when the maintenance shutdown was going to occur, where they shut the whole plant and did all the maintenance, but it was triggered by that liner life. And the time that it took to change those liners, because you're talking about taking 500 tonnes of worn-out liners out and putting 2,000 tonnes of new liners in, it was such a huge material handling thing, it defined the length of the shutdown. So a maintenance interval and maintenance duration defined annual availability of the plant, and every evaluating rock had to go through that plant. So it really defined site throughput and ultimately site profitability. It's this bizarre focus on one thing. So the vision for RME was to mechanise the process and reduce the time. But there's a second thing. Those liners, their profiles, and you'll see in the film what the inside of these mills look like. It's about real work, this film. It's great. You could watch it all day. It's the liners are actually, the profile is where the installed power of the mill engages the process flow. And that's very important to what CID has done for RME. So it's got two things. There's it reduces the availability of the plant from, say, 92 to 96%. That's very nice. You get extra days running. But the next key step is, instead of the plant doing 2,000 tonne an hour, maybe it's got the potential to do 2,200 tonne an hour. And that's the second thing. So I believe at this point we have a look at a film, which is under my control. Yeah, so you get the drift of what we do. What we've done over the years is turn what used to do 160, 200-hour reline into a 60-hour reline with a single machine system like that, with our twin machine system, a 40-hour reline. And those mills cost between $50,000 and $500,000 in revenue an hour, depending on your grade. So reducing that time, given an extra 10 days production per year, has been a very, very good thing. And we're successful. So we command about 80% of the world market in this technology niche. And at our peak, we were making one of those systems every 7 working days. That was through 2012. But we're concurrently with all this, we're working with Sam directly now. And we've learned a lot of stuff from Sam, but one of the sayings that I wake up in the night screaming about sometimes is that he says, a second-class product with a first-class business model will beat a first-class product with a second-class business model. And for 20 years, whatever our business model was, not that we thought about it in those sort of terms, we just made equipment, we're a manufacturer. That was our business model by default. And I started to really worry that for 20 years we'd got away with it, but maybe going forward, because people can always copy technologies. We've got a few people that have copied it, albeit badly so far. But you're always at risk once a technology's been accepted in the marketplace. So lots of things have got traction with us, but there's another graph where technology companies normally put their effort, and there's a big spike up in product development, and then I think is over a decade, where's the benefit really won from companies? This is a study, and the real benefits won in getting the business model right. So one of the big foci for me, for the CID program, is to find the best business model for RME. Right, how do we do that? We build the same performance potential into every one of our mill reliance systems. But depending on the crew, we actually haven't got control over it. So by not being able to provide an excellent crew to deliver that performance, even as a demonstration, was awkward. I'd actually said no to going mill relining years ago. CID pushed me over the line with that, and now we've got a joint service agreement with who we believe to be equal best performance-wise reline crew in the world. It's a crowd called Caltech out of New Zealand. They're all sheep farmers and helicopter pilots and all sorts of... They've got real lives, and they're not really nice people, which is quite different to most reliners. But they're very, very good. So we're in this joint service agreement, so we can now offer that, which is good. And then, over the last 3 years, we've been developing a software program called Mill Director. And it's a discrete... everyone should know about this. It's a discrete event simulation thing. The platform's a purchased program, but the people that use it for designing flows of people around baggage handling, traffic flows through cities, car assembly lines, balancing that. Every defined event has got a statistical distribution of how long it takes. So, and there's dependencies. You can't do this till you do that. So the platform of Director is this discrete simulation. We've filmed lots of relines, and there's a ton of technology behind it, but we can now predict how long the reline's going to take. We can assess the performance of the crew, predict what equipment changes would do. We can even predict reline times off the plans of a concentrator that's yet to be built now. So the combination of Mill Director, our own crew, and the technology we've always produced has produced this incomparable market position, which is just being rolled out as we speak. Everything seems to be getting rolled out as we speak, doesn't it, Nigel? But the take-up in South America has been sensational. There's 3 companies already talking about 5-year programs to work through and optimise their relining, because it's worth a fortune to them. If it was just reducing the downtime, that'd be a very, very good thing. But remember, I went back and I said the liner profile is where the installed power of the mill engages the process. I started giving papers on this, 2006, I suppose, proposing this concept of profit optimised liners. So you'd be doing more relines. The throughput from those mills might be up here at the end of the liner life, put new liners in, and it drops and then rises over the next 4 to 6 months or whatever to some new peak. My vision was 4 of these instead of 2 of these, but I couldn't prove it. And we had no success in convincing anyone to implement it. But it's true. And for the green fraternity, the mill performance at the optimum part of the liner cycle is actually fewer kilowatt hours per tonne. So the mill is actually peak efficiency too. And when 10% of a country's electricity goes into driving mills, which it does in Australia, that's a big thing. So our goal now, guided by customer-inspired design, is it's precipitated. We used to be a manufacturer, and we used to service it too and buy some supply spare parts. But now with the reline crew and Director, and these concepts of 5-year relationships, we're going to grow these relationships with these mining houses and win their confidence such that we can start the conversation about having 4 relines a year, highly predictable, very fast, with that combination, and actually have 4 of those instead of 2 of those. So we're actually for the first time addressing not the 2-3% saved downtime, but also the rate of the 96% that it's running for the year. So that's a gigantic paradigm shift for us from being a simple equipment manufacturer. Although we've been very successful with it. 90% of what we make we export. We've won every export award in the land. People talk about Cochlear. They were the 8th winner of the Australia, or they were 8th inductee into the Exporters Hall of Fame. RME was the 9th. So we've been terribly successful in being a manufacturer in Australia, but now this combination of having the foundation of the manufactured product and this service provision. The thing, to be honest, we haven't worked out is how to monetise that, because if we can go and make a mining company an extra, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars per year, we actually haven't quite figured out yet how to monetise that. So that'd be a fairly handy project to. So that's about all of it to say. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.